Imam Senad Agic is the Imam and Khatib of Islamic Cultural Center of Greater Chicago, Northbrook, Illinois, having moved to the United States from his native Bosnia-Herzegovina in 1989. Imam Agic is a graduate of the University of Sarajevo, where he studied Islamic civilization in the languages Arabic, Persian, and Turkish, and their literature. He assisted in the preparation of Bosnian Arabic dictionary and edited several Arabic language texts, and also published a comprehensive collection of Muslim names. I request Imam Senad Agic to please come and address. He will be speaking sitting at the desk.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah. Assalatu wassalamu alayka ya Habiballah. Assalatu wassalamu alayka ya Shafi'allah. Assalatu wassalamu alayka ya Sahib al-Mi'raj wal-Hijra. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. The events of the last 2 years has brought Bosnia and Herzegovina and its people into the forefront of the attention of the Muslim world. Muslims over the world are now well aware of the geopolitical aspects of this country, whose Muslim population was virtually unknown, say 10 years ago. Unfortunately, most of this welcomed attention has more to do with reporting the crimes committed by the Serb and Croat villains. Little is still known by non-Bosnian Muslims of the rich Islamic culture that once thrived there and is attempting to reflower once again, inshallah. It is well known that the first real Islamic presence in Bosnia came after the Ottoman conquest of 1463. Within the century of this date, nearly 7 out of 10 Bosnians had converted to Islam.
Allahu Akbar.
And by the mid-17th century, nearly half of the population of the Balkans was Muslim. As in India, Indonesia, and sub-Saharan Africa, the role of the Sufi tariqat in the spread of Islam in the Balkans was tremendous.
Allahu Akbar.
These dervishes of the Balkans, as their modern-day counterparts in America, spread the love of Islam to the largely Orthodox population of the region. Countless numbers of Bosnians, Albanians, Greeks, Serbs, Croats, Bulgarians, and others were drawn into Islam by the love and wisdom that typified Sufi behavior. Nearly every large tariqa could be found in the Balkan Peninsula. The Naqshbandi and Qadiri dominated Bosnia, Herzegovina, and much of Bulgaria. The Khalvatiya, with its various branches, and the NFIE found widespread appeal among the Albanian peoples of Kosovo, Macedonia, and Albania proper. The Bektashi were widespread in Thessaly, Macedonia, and Bulgaria. However, this tariqat's stronghold later became southern Albania. The Mevlevis were to be found in the major cities of the Balkans, including Belgrade, Sarajevo, Skopje, Tirana, and even far away Budapest. The tekis or zaviyas of the Sufi tariqats became beacons of faith and love for the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Unfortunately, the tide of history destroyed much of the tariqat's activity as communism and orthodox fanatism came to dominate the peninsula. However, today the way of Sufis still survives, although in a very diminished role. In Bosnia, a great revival of tariqa has occurred due to the war. Both Naqshbandi and Qadiri dervishes are today very active in the army of Bosnia and Herzegovina, warding off Serb and Croat terror. In Kosovo, the NFIE tariqat has 4 functioning tekis and the Halveti 3. Macedonia has 4 working Halveti tekis and 1 Naqshbandi. In Albania, where religious practices have only recently been permitted after the 20-year ban on religious activities made by the communists in 1967, a revival of Bektashi and Halveti tariqats is taking place within the general Islamic reawakening. One of the most enduring legacies of Islam in the Balkans is the practice of the regular recitation of the Mevlud in honor and remembrance of the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his birth. The practice of giving Mevlud celebrations in the concerned region dates from the Ottoman conquest. Many important figures in early Bosnian Muslim history recognized the importance and popularity of the Mevlud. The famous Ghazi Husrev Beg stipulated in the registers of his Waqf trusts of the year 1531 CE that 300 dirhams be allotted each Rabi'ul Awwal for the massive celebration of the Mevlud at his mosque, the largest in the Balkans in Sarajevo. It was and is quite common in the Balkan lands for the Mevlud to be recited not only in mosques and tekis, but in the homes of well-off Muslims during the month of Rabi'ul Awwal and even into the following month of Rabi'ul Akhir.
Allahu Akbar.
In recent times, Mevluds have been given throughout the year to mark special occasions such as the opening of new mosques, school graduations, marriage anniversaries, and the like. There has even developed a trend to recite a Mevlud on the anniversary of a loved one's death. Now, during the war, many Muslim families have sent their sons to the front with a farewell Mevlud program. The Mevlud has throughout the Ottoman centuries developed from a simple recitation of poetry to a full and rich program of ilahis, qasidas, poetry, and naats, all of which serve to attract the attention of the people. During a typical Bosnian Mevlud, the mosque or other structure is filled with the smell of incense and rose water is sprinkled on the attendees. The Mevlud performers, who are usually well practiced and prepared for the recitation, begin with Quran, followed by takbirs, salawats, poems, and religious songs. At some point, candies and sherbet, we call sherbet, drinks, are distributed to the audience. Before the 19th century, Bosnian Mevluds were sung solely in Turkish. Before the 19th century, only in Turkish. However, nearly a century ago, Hafiz Salih Gashevich translated the epic Mevlud poem of Suleiman Chalabi into the Bosnian tongue, retaining the 11-meter rhythm. Chalabi's work had been translated into Albanian during the 18th century by Dervish Hassan Zulfo Baba. During the Islamic resurgence in Bosnia in the late 1980s, the Ghazi Husrev Beg Madrasa formed a chorus which became quite popular, and its Mevlud performances were held in the stadiums of numerous Bosnian cities. Popular cassette tapes of the chorus Mevlud and Ilahis were sold to crowds of eager listeners and were readily available on the market. In fact, the Mevlud is such an integral part of Bosnian Islam, let's say so, that what could be called Mevlud academies appeared in the 70s and 80s to provide trained recitations. These academies practice Mevlud formats including Quran recitation, lectures on Sirah, singing of religious odes, and reciting various Mevlud poetry texts in both Bosnian and Turkish. This tradition of reading Mevlud, that's how we call it, has, despite the massive destruction of Islamic religious institutions in the current war, continued with a great vigor. The primitive terror of Balkan Christian fanaticism has only forced Muslims to cling more tightly to their time-honored traditions such as Mevlud and Zikr halakas. Evidence of this is that this year a large book compilation of Mevlud poetry and Ilahis has recently been published in Bosnian, and it has been gratefully received now during the war. Even in the Bosnian diaspora, the Mevlud is given ample respect and regular performance. In many towns throughout Europe, in Germany, Holland, and here in Chicago, Bosnian community mosques feature Mevlud recitations on special occasions throughout the year. Despite the erosion of many aspects of Islamic life in the Balkan Muslim population, this love for the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his birth will hopefully gain for all of this old and battered community his blessed shafa'at, intercession. I would like to close with an interesting side note. During the 1930s, the various tariqats in Albania formed one umbrella organization to promote Zikrullah. The Rifa'is, Halvatis, Sadis, and Tijanis would gather all together once a year to celebrate the Mevlud in a grand fashion. It is hoped, inshallah, that we here in this country can continue in this practice as we are doing today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Takbir! Takbir! Takbir!
May I call on the members of our group, singing group, to perform few ilahis in Bosnian language.
Imam Agic is going to have a qasida recited, and he's calling for the group.
Kad prosvatu behari, kad dunjaluk zamiri, duša čežnjom procvili, davno smo se rastali. Allah, Allah, Hak, Allah, 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 Jallallah, Allah, Allah, Hu Allah, La ilaha illallah. Ovo nebo nad nama, sjena je od zastora, 7 kata nebesa, usred naših je prsa. Allah, Allah, Hak, Allah, 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 Jallallah, Allah, Allah, Hu Allah, La ilaha illallah. Ko pogleda u sebe, rastaće se od sebe, ispod toga čadora, duša dertom izgara. Allah, Allah, Hak, Allah, 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 Jallallah, Allah, Allah, Hu Allah, La ilaha illallah. Proljeće je u nama, kad se topi suzama i pustinja procvjeta, nude sliku dženneta. Allah, Allah, Hak, Allah, 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 Jallallah, Allah, Allah, Hu Allah, La ilaha illallah. Ilhamom sam sinoć ja sejrio Muhammeda. Allah, ilhamom sam sinoć ja sejrio Muhammeda. U dergahu mog srca, Allah, ja sejri Muhammeda. U dergahu mog srca, Allah, ja sejri Muhammeda. Na glavi mu amame, zelen džuba orame. Allah, na glavi mu amame,
سيري محمدا يا ممداين أسفتان الله يا سيري محمدا إسبركشتا محمد نبيو بسبسية الله إسبركشتا محمد نبيو بسبسية أضحك يا هداية الله يا سيري محمدا أضحك يا هداية الله يا سيري محمدا أصف مع ملكي سيري شيخ محمدا الله أصف مع ملكي سيري شيخ محمدا يا سيما تدبي يا الله يا سيري محمدا يا سيما تدبي يا الله يا سيري محمدا
صلى الله عليه وسلم.